Hey there, Internet. I'm Eric.
And I'm still sitting here, sweaty as hell.
And you're listening to Just Cool Enough. And Joe's not here because, you know, he told us very last minute. We had this discussion last week, me and Ike were like, did Joe say he wasn't going to be here? And it's like, no, I don't know. I mean, he posted on the Facebook, and he's the only one that fucking does that, so I guess he's going to be here. I don't know. I don't know how to judge it. And then he was here, and it was fine. I was like, I feel like...
I was just foretelling the future.
And then this week, to outdo himself at 2:55 in the morning, Joe messaged us, hey, I won't be here this week. So that's good, you know, keeping it earlier and earlier. Almost, you know, if he keeps going early enough, it might be before I go to bed.
Whoa. Let's not rush that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you know. But yeah, 3 in the morning, that's exactly when I want to get text messages from Joe. But anyways, guys, welcome to Just Cool Enough, the show about stuff and things and all that nonsense. I don't know. It's very last minute prep because Joe's not here to do all the prep that none of us want to do. So we're just doing the show anyways. But I guess we'll start off by saying, Ike, how the fuck are you?
I'm doing pretty good. A little, like I said, a little sweaty. Was moving in my neighbors across the hallway. They're going to be my future in-laws. Other than that, had a blast this week playing some World of Warcraft. We can get into that a little later on. Yeah, I've been kind of getting back to my video game roots. Unfortunately, it means putting my fitness stuff aside, but I'm waiting for school to start so I can find that nice balance. And I got a nice new leather chair because my old chair was probably about as old as this show. And it was getting a little ratty and full of holes. And I'm sure if you burned it, it would probably burn some kind of bright purple flame. And anybody within 1 mile would probably die or catch some kind of horrible disease. So I'm making some changes. I figure next thing I'll go for is maybe some new headsets. Because my headset's getting a little, like, the foam part starting to show. And, I mean, they work okay, but they look kind of terrible. How the hell has your week been?
My week's been pretty good, actually. I joined the gym.
Wait, do you know what a gym is?
Yeah, that's where you level up your Pokemans.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I joined LA Fitness. So I got this little
red team or blue team?
It's yellow. Apparently, it's Mystic.
Oh.
I joined LA Fitness, and I've been going to the gym, and that's been interesting. I went because my sister is a member, so that's how I got in, because they were like, oh, we'll waive the initiation fee, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I show up Friday, you know, I get, like, she did it all over the internet, so I was like, I get an email that, like, I'm there. So I walk in, and, like, I'm all dressed to go to the gym, and I'm like, hi, I got signed up for one of these gym memberships, and they're like, okay, give us your phone number. And I'm like, I'm doing it. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll print you one of these little cards. And I was like, cool. And the lady's like, so how do you like the gym so far? I'm like, the lobby's nice. I don't. She's like, oh, you've never been. It's like, yeah. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Never ever been here.
Yeah. And then I was like, I'm not going to overdo it. So I did about like half an hour on an exercise bike, and then I pulled every muscle in my arm ever by overdoing it.
Wait. On the exercise bike, or you did something else to pull your arm?
After the exercise bike,
okay, because I was going to say that might be the problem. If you pulled your arm well on the exercise bike, you are doing it wrong.
I was doing a handstand the whole time. I did the exercise bike, which was fine. And then I was like, well, let's go lift some weights. And then I pulled all the things and had all the muscle soreness for several days. And today's like the first day where I feel okay. So today I went into the gym and did more arm lifting, so I'm sure I'm going to fuck up my arms again. But yeah, it's so I had to take it. The past few days I've had to take it a little easier on weightlifting and stuff, and stick to mostly cardio. And hopefully I'll find a rhythm where I don't tear my muscles out of my body trying to.
Your arm comes up and your body comes up and your arms just fall off like a G.I. Joe soldier that had its limbs torn.
Yeah, like I'm doing like a squat thrust or something like that, and I just like literally my arms just rip off or something. I don't know. Yeah. I'm now that I'm like officially, I like have a gym, and it's in with walking distance, which is great for me. I can just walk there in the mornings. And it's nice because when I was running, I had to like run real early because if you go past 10, it gets too hot and I don't want to do it. But it's with the gym, I can actually, I can take my time. I don't have to do it first thing in the morning. I can wait till 10 or 11, and it's fine. Just walk like the 3 blocks to the gym, and then it's air conditioned enough. It's nice enough. So I can do it at any time of the day, which is fun. I haven't really done it. I think the latest I've gone in was like today. I went in at 10, but yeah, it's nice to be able to just go in and exercise when I feel like it and not be a sweaty mess.
I remember when I done Fitness Pals with Joe the first time, I was going to the gym at 10. Like I'd wake up at like 9, maybe futz around a little bit, and then go to the gym at 10. And I really enjoyed that time of the day because there's not a whole lot of people in there. You're not getting the work morning rush. It's not during the work day, and you don't get the after hours buff guys who are trying to show up how much they can, lift.
Yeah,
I really liked that kind of late morning area.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean,
so what are your impressions of the gym now that you've been at least once?
So far, I mean, I had a gym membership years ago back when I lived in Roseville, and I couldn't go all the time. I went maybe twice a week, maybe, when my mom was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go, and you want to go with me?" I'm like, "Oh, I should, I guess." But it's not that bad. They got a fair number of machines. Like I've never seen, like, if I've gone in there, it's always been like there's always ellipticals or exercise bikes or treadmills are always open, and the weight machines can be a little crowded sometimes, but if you just like pick a different weight machine for a hot second, you can, the one you want will open up, or you can take a fucking break. And I haven't really messed with like any of the free weights stuff yet, but I think eventually I'm gonna want to start doing that because honestly, if you're gonna do weightlifting, that's the stuff you should be doing and not the machines. From what I hear, the machines are not exactly the thing that you want to be focusing on. But I haven't really come up with a routine yet but I'm excited to do that. I don't know. We'll see how it works out.
So are you going to be ripped by this time next year? You're going to be, roided out and muscly?
Honestly, my biggest goal is to not have tits. Like, I almost don't have tits, and that was the thing. Like, I started running, and that was good. And then I stopped running for
Did you have them at one point?
Yeah. I used to be super fat, and there's still the remnants of tits, but it's almost gone. And the running helped, but also just eating less. I haven't run in like a month, maybe 2, and I was still losing weight just because just eating less and being slightly healthier. But they're like almost gone, and that's like my biggest goal is like, hey, have like a flat chest and maybe a flat stomach, like, but not like. That's like a plus, flat chest first, then maybe flat stomach, then muscle definition.
I remember when I tried losing the weight the first time, that was the one part that irked me. I still had a little bit of a pooch, and I couldn't get rid of my tits. I had bitch tits till I was 188, and I still had them, and I was unhappy.
Yeah,
I had to get rid of them.
I weighed myself a day or two ago. I was 188, but this was like middle of the day. I've had multiple meals and drink. I wasn't judging it too harshly, but I haven't weighed myself in a while. But I was pretty happy, despite being like the middle of the afternoon and having eaten and drinking multiple times throughout the day. I was still like 188, and I was like, oh, that's that. So I'm probably a little less than that if I did a normal like early morning just after you go to the bathroom weigh in.
We didn't get any emails this week, which not shocking. I don't know. I found that there is a Just Cool Enough review that's relatively new, but I don't know if Joe ever read it. It's from July 16th.
Then we didn't read it because we haven't read a review in like a year. So
I'm going to read this one. This one's from James McIntosh on iTunes. You can head over there and review our iTunes podcast, and anything would be helpful. 5 stars, 1 star, shit's weak. I don't know. Anything would be helpful. Preferably not 1 star. But James writes, Joe, Ike, and Eric have obnoxious broadcasting chemistry, and Oh, sorry. It should be obvious broadcasting chemistry, and the show is entertaining even when it's not about something I genuinely care about. Really funny and great radio. Rock on.
Yay, thank you, James.
I was reading what I wanted, what made sense to me in my head.
Yeah. Thank you, James, for that iTunes review. Yeah, the last one we read was August. It was almost literally a year ago. Was posted, but so yay, we got another review. Thank you very much, and you can always go to iTunes and search up justcoolenough.com or just cool enough and review us if you want. Let's see, I'm going over. We got an email. I don't speak German, so I can't read what this. He sent us a games code. I'm pretty sure it's in German, but I don't speak German, so I don't know what game. And he's like, "Hey, have a free game."
Yeah, I was trying to read through the code and see if it said Grand Theft Auto, but I couldn't read any of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and look it up, but I think I see a name in the midst of all that gobbledygook that I can't read the language of my people, but who cares? But yeah, so if oh hey, look at that. We got an email from Brady as we speak. So yay! Look at that. So you can actually read that.
All right, going over the Just Cool Enough inbox again. Brady says, this is on our topic for the day. I was going to talk about the most defining games that you've ever played. I was looking for 3 of them. Brady's input on this one, just defining enough. Hey, JCE crew, probably my most defining video game is the second RPG I've ever played, the first being Pokemon. It was Final Fantasy III on the SNES, actually Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah.
The sheer amount of unlockable characters, 14, means I would always be disappointed with the amount of playable characters in future RPGs. Pokemon, at the time, had 150 known characters, use quotes, but because of the nature of the game, it didn't really feel like a real RPG. Final Fantasy III, or 6, however you look at it, had a huge story, and most characters had rich backstories. Each character also had different attack styles. Sabian's Blitz are my favorite. Still my favorite. So no two ever played the same. The story often switches point of view, which means no one character was truly the, quote, main character like you get with most games. It's from Brady.
Yeah, I never really played much of the Final Fantasy games, but I remember when I was a kid for my buddy's birthday, my buddy Ricky, I bought him Final Fantasy III on the Game Boy, which I guess might have been 6. Or maybe it was the actual release of 3, the only release of 3. I don't remember exactly, but I remember I got it for him because I knew he liked those kinds of games. And then he was showing it to me. He's like, it's like Pokemon where you walk around because I played a lot of Pokemon. He's like, and you walk around in the grass and then animals attack you, but you can't catch them. And I was like, well, fuck that then. I played it for a second. I walked, and then this tiger attacked me, but I couldn't catch it. So what's the point? The fuck's the point? Fuck that game series and everything about it. But yeah, it's so. I mean, the gym's been fun. I can do one more thing about my week, but I did a thing. So why don't you go?
My last thing about my week that I forgot to mention before was my future in-laws called me up today and told me they found a rabbit trapped in the pool filter of their pool. And they rescued it and put it on the deck, and they were calling me because I have a rabbit, and I'm really invested in learning more about rabbits and all this jazz, so they figured maybe I would be able to help a thing or two. And I called around to some veterinary offices and got a hold of Tufts University Veterinary Wildlife Center, which is about an hour away. And they said, bring him in. If he's too young or he's really hurt, we'll take him. They take him for free. If not, we'll check him out. We'll give him back to you if you wouldn't mind releasing him. So I went there. It took me an hour to get there. They checked him out for about 5 minutes, told me it was in excellent condition, and asked me if I wouldn't mind returning him. So I brought him back and let him out into the wild. So it was kind of cool because the rabbit was smaller than the size of the palm of my hand. So it was really cool to be able to hold this kind of wild bunny rabbit.
Nice. The other thing I did this week was I drive now. I've been driving for almost a year now. It's been awesome.
Have you hit anything yet?
A few poles, a few things like that. Things like that. But
everything's stationary though, right? Nothing moving.
Yeah, nothing ever moving.
They are usually harder to hit.
Yeah, Yeah, because they're always just like, but the past, I want to say a couple of weeks, maybe month, I noticed my car was making this weird like shaking noise, and I couldn't quite place it. It sounded like it was coming. It was definitely coming from like the back on the driver's side. And I thought maybe it was like something in the trunk rattling around, and I couldn't figure out. It took me a while to finally figure out what it was. And it only happened when I was doing it. I had to be going at least 30, 35 and going over bumpy roads, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I was like, is the trunk not in place? Is something loose? I don't know. And then I realized it was the muffler. The muffler's got this strap that holds it in place, and that had come loose. And I was like, oh, that seems incredibly dangerous to have my muffler swinging free. And so I actually, it was like, it took me about a week to figure out how to fix it, and then I realized how much of an idiot I was and how easy it was. But I had to, it's just a simple bolt that holds it in place. Like it's got this little like bar, and it hooks into this like little clip, and that's what it was. But it'd come out of that clip, so it was just shaking, and I couldn't like fit it in the clip anymore. So what I did was like, oh, I can just unhook the little strap, move it forward into the thing, and then tighten the bolt again. Bam! And I did it. I fixed my car.
I think Joe would be proud.
Yeah, that's the second time I've been like, my car's not doing this thing, or my car's doing this weird thing. I'm going to figure it out. Because when I first started driving last year, like I was like, oh, I'm going to use the cigarette lighter to charge my phone. And the cigarette lighter didn't work. I was like, oh, no. And then like I researched it, and it was like it might just be a blown fuse. I was like, huh. So I bought like a $5 box of fuses, and then replaced a fuse in the car, and it's right there on the side of the dashboard, so it was easy to get to. And I got a working thing, So I'm handy as fuck, is what I'm saying, and it's been a lot of fun.
You're becoming a man's man. It's more than I can do.
Yeah, I'm making a job. Ugh, sucks.
Like a real job?
Yeah. My buddy's trying to get me a job. Ugh. I got an interview.
Go do it.
I got a phone interview Friday. Ugh. Gonna work. Get a paycheck. Ugh.
The next thing you're going to be telling me, you're going to be moving into your own apartment.
Oh, no way. No. To hell with that. No. But I've also been playing a lot of World of Warcraft.
And why have you been playing World of Warcraft? Because I assume that it's the same reason I've been playing World of Warcraft.
I don't think it is. I've been playing because the folks over at Saving Throw, the RPG, the tabletop RPG streaming site that I do stuff for occasionally. Like tonight, I'm going to be on. If you're watching live, I'm going to be on at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to be filling in on their show Barky's Brigade, which is kind of their main show. I think it was their first show, and it's their like main big one. It's Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. So I'll be filling in. Or you can, if you're watching this in a podcast archived version, you can always check out Saving Throw show on YouTube to watch the episode I was in from this day, which was August 17th of 2016. I'm sure it'll be up there. But yeah, a bunch of them were like, hey, let's all play World of Warcraft and we'll all go on the same server. And I thought, fuck, I've been looking for an excuse to lose myself in World of Warcraft again. Legion's coming out, so I re-upped and then reinstalled. And it was funny, I started a new character. I started a Blood Elf Warlock, and I was like, I've got all the free time in the world, and also the game's easy as all hell now, and also I've got like a shitload of heirloom items. So while I logged in, like after about a week of playing, I finally saw some of the other people playing in a big group, and we all got on like a voice chat, and we're talking, and they were all like mid-20s. I just hit 60. and I haven't played that character in a couple of days. I started a new character. I started a goblin shaman. He's now almost 20, and that's like I'm like actively like trying to slow down so that people can catch up, but then I realized there's no point. They're never going to catch up. I cannot be stopped. I have one speed. I have one speed in World of Warcraft. Yeah, it's go, and I can't help it. I was like, I'll roll a shaman because I've always hated shaman. It's the only class that I've never made it past like levels 8 because I hated it. And Shaman's great now, because the main Shaman build you start with doesn't require any mana, and they basically got rid of totems. So now
See, I haven't played my Shaman yet. She's still like 84, so there's no... But I swear I've seen totems in PvP. I've seen them on the ground.
I mean, I don't know, at one point, like, I got to level 14, I think, with, like, the Elementalist build, and then now I have an ability that when I press a button, drops 4 totems on the ground. And the healer build, I have the healing totem that I could drop, but these are all, like... these are afterthought. They're not even like the main thing. It's not like before where if you don't have totems out, what the fuck's wrong with you? And maybe it changes at later game. Again, I'm only level 18, I think, maybe 19, so that might change in the future. But I remember totems being a lot bigger part of the early game of Shamans, which is why I hated it.
I would agree. I remember even soloing, there's like you always drop a totem or two, and then I remember it being super key in raids to have all 4 of them down, because if you didn't, or even instances, people would be like, the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't healer, you had to have your totems down, and then they moved it for a while where totems, like you had to keep moving your totems. It was something stupid like that, and I really hated it for a while, so maybe it'll be a little more interesting. Yeah,
it seems like they've really changed that. The same with like Warlock, the opening, the Warlock build that you start with doesn't even have Shadow Bolt. Shadow Bolt is another spec that you can change into. That's the Demonology spec, but the Affliction spec, you just drain life or drain soul if you talent into it, that's what I've been doing. And because I have heirloom items, it's basically I don't even have to use like any of my damage over time spells. I mostly just hit drain soul, and most of the time they die before like an equal level like mob will die before it makes it to me to get a hit in on me. But yeah, so I'm 60 now on that character, and I'll probably progress him in a little bit. But I'm also interested to see how this Shaman goes.
Now, have you played with the Demon? Have you pre-ordered the expansion? I guess would be the first question.
I haven't. Because I don't usually have to buy their product.
Either you cut out or I cut out, and my internet still says it's good. So I'm just going to assume that maybe I'm still here and you cut out. Anyway, well, assuming that I'm still here and that you're not, because my internet still says it's good, I'm going to see if you come back online. And, yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and mention that... my favorite game so far, well, Warcraft would have to be one of them. We were talking about like what our favorite kind of defining games were. It definitely would have to be World of Warcraft for me, because yeah, it is just me. Thanks, Satish. Hey, there we go. Now we got Eric back.
Yeah, that was fun.
I just went on assuming that I was the one still alive, and Satish told us that.
That's what I did too. I just kept talking, and I was like, I hope it's one of us is still going.
I was about to hop on YouTube to find out. Anyway, yeah. So you were saying that I had asked you if you had gotten the expansion. You had mentioned that yes, you have people that you know. I know who you're talking about. I don't know them personally, but it was from Warcraft Radio.
Yeah, my buddy Jason works at World of Warcraft and works at Blizzard and usually gets me all the stuff. If I ask him to. So I will have my copy at some point, near launch or post-launch, but I don't have it yet. But that's fine with me.
I know that I picked mine up already, and I guess we've been talking about, what are some of the 3 defining games to you so far, and that you've played. And World of Warcraft would have to be one of them for me, because I've made friends like you and Joe. I've made plenty of friends across the world, even the United States that I've met up with because of this game. And I've had a chance to play the Demon Hunter this week, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's interesting that you mentioned, like, one of the nice things about the Shaman and playing some of these other classes, they've definitely simplified the game. If you're not sure if you're going to get back into it, because it was, for a while it seemed like there were so many buttons. You had to hit this button and that button. Then, you had to keep track of your cooldowns and this. They've definitely simplified the game a lot more. I haven't really touched my rogue since... what is it? Wrath of the Lich King? No, it had to be a little bit after that. He was 83, sitting in the boat in Vashir, and my Hearthstone was still set there because I accidentally hearthed back there the other day and had to figure out how to get out of it. And the new Outlaw spec where you can actually fire a gun was kind of nice. Like you can get combo points from doing that. So I've really been enjoying this kind of new play style. It makes it a lot easier, and the invasion events are pretty awesome because, as I mentioned, I hopped on my rogue at 83. I've done 5 invasion portals total, and that's all I've done on him, and I've already got him to level 88.
My warlock did an invasion event at level 40. I like how they do that. They like make it so no matter what level you are helpful
to your level.
Yeah, they scale everything back to your level from your perspective, where it's like, so I'm level 40 running around firing my stupid little spells, and then all the level 100s are there, and we're all equally, fighting this thing, which is great. I like that.
That was one of the big drawbacks, I think, to some of the other end game or the other events, is that you almost had to be max level to participate in them. So it's nice to see that they've kind of taken that into some consideration so that anyone can play no matter your level, and then you can even use that to level up some of your older tunes.
I'm actually
Demon Hunter. Oh, go ahead.
No, having mentioned your rogue and the changes, that makes me want to go and start playing some of my older characters, because I logged into my paladin for like a hot second and noticed that all the buttons changed, and I think I played a little bit of my 100 paladin, but it makes me want to go and try a lot of my older classes that maybe I didn't get very far in, because they did change a lot of the classes. They simplified it a lot, and they are different. So it makes me want to see if maybe I like, because I didn't think, like the Warlock, I'm liking just fine, and I'm actually enjoying the Shaman quite a bit, especially because at low levels, you don't have a mount unless you have a billion heirloom items, but I can turn into a wolf and just run.
That was one of my favorite parts of playing a Worgen. I would definitely say that one of the big things about at least coming back now, and I know some of the changes they've been subtly making over time, but it has been like the reason why I stopped playing my rogue was he just got out DPS'd by anything else in the game.
That's why I switched to mage, because that's why I remember I was a rogue in vanilla and Burning Crusade. I was a rogue DPSer in raid guilds, and it was just, I struggled. I mean, my gear was never quite as great as some of the other DPSers, but even still, I was struggling to like make a difference in the raid. So that's why Lich King, I switched to a tank, because I was like, fuck it, I don't have to worry about this shit.
And you don't have to, I mean, people say DPS meters aren't worth watching, but at the same time, if you're not even playing a class that can keep up with the multiple damage, and they even made it so that rogues can do damage to multiple targets while in combat. You can switch on an ability that will let you do that. But I've had a lot of fun playing my rogue. In fact, that's why I've started to level them back up. I've done 5 invasion events, gotten to level from 83 to 88. I have all the heirloom items like you were talking about that give 10% extra XP. And it's been a lot of fun. But the Demon Hunter by far, which seems to me right now to have the most buttons, but isn't particularly hard to play, has been a real enjoyment. So if you've been waiting to decide whether or not you can come back to WoW, it's definitely worth it. I've even talked to our friend Motive a few times on Discord, and he's mentioned that he's really enjoyed this expansion, and that I've definitely seen him on there a lot as well. So
yeah,
if you're wondering if you should go back, it's probably worth going and checking out.
I will say, being a warlock, like leveling, I like looking for group is great, and like doing the most, like majority of my XP gains are just like random dungeons, which are great. But I don't know if it's just my build of Warlock or whatever, but not a lot of AoE on the Warlock. I'm like level 60 and I still have really no AoE. It makes it real shitty in dungeons, because like mages just fucking run in there and like bam, 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 everything's dead. And I'm like, hold on. First I have to cast Seed of Darkness, and then I have to put Corruption on that guy. Then I have to do enough damage for the seed to explode, and then he spreads Corruption to and it's like everything dies within 3 seconds, so I don't have enough time to do that.
I'm wondering if it's the spec.
Yeah, it might just be an Affliction Warlock is probably not the most reliable DPS or the
DPS. Most great DPS output.
Yeah, I'm sure if I switched to one of the other two specs, I would be better at that. But I don't really care. I like Affliction just fine for now.
I know it took me, because you do /played or whatever it is. Yeah, it still works. /played to see how long you played. I played my Demon Hunter probably the other day. I checked, it was like 7 hours, and 5 of those hours were spent at level 100. So it only took me about 2 hours to level the first couple levels, and then it took me maybe a day and a half just doing the invasion events to outfit my Demon Hunter in full 700 gear from the invasion events. And because the glaives are bind on account, I could just send my glaives around to my other characters to get more shards.
Nice.
But that would definitely be one of them.
Yeah, I would agree. World of Warcraft, definitely the most influential game in my life, because it's affected so much of my life. We didn't even really talk about how it affected it, but yeah, we both got our start. We met each other doing shows on WoW Radio, where I met you. I met Ike. I met a lot of great people. I met Jason and Christina, who both work at Blizzard and give me free games. I met Kyle, Eric, and Dustin, who are the Donut Boys. And last May, I was the best. I was one of the not the best man, but I was one of the wedding party for Eric's wedding. So I had to stand next to him as he was getting. I'm a man he met on the internet almost 10 years ago, and I was standing next to him at his wedding. Like it was me and the two guys who he grew up with. And that's, definitely the most influential game in my life. I would say probably. Yeah,
I was going to say, just to end it up from my perspective, I think it's been an interesting ride on World of Warcraft, because I think a lot of people that I've met who don't play the game, for one reason or another, not into it, don't play video games, whatever, find it super weird that you could just meet someone on the internet playing a video game and like become friends with them. Like, I don't understand why that's any weirder from any other kind of social interaction. Like, you get to know the person. Eventually, you go from being like kind of anonymous game people, if you've been playing with them long enough, that I'm sure you open up to them to a certain degree about more personal things. You just become friends like you would in any other situation.
Yep,
it's definitely something I've enjoyed about the game.
Agreed. One of my choices would probably be I'm thinking about this at the top of my head, but I would say Metal Gear Solid 3, because it was the first Metal Gear Solid game I played. Chronologically, that's great, because technically it's the first game in the entire franchise, which is fantastic, because I actually played it in chronological order for quite a while. I played Metal Gear 3, then I played the Metal Gear 1 remake, then Metal Gear 2, and then eventually Metal Gear 4. And it's one of my favorite video game series, because it's so unique. It also doesn't hold up, and I tried to play Metal Gear 3, like the remake, and it's not playable anymore. It's just not it's gameplay wise, it's just shit. But at the time, it was the first game that showed me kind of what games could be, because before I played a lot of games, but this was like, it felt kind of like, video games are art, but it felt like a game that was trying to say things and do things that other games don't typically try and do, which I really respected. And that's why I respect the franchise a lot, is because they're always trying to push that game series into being more than just a stealth action game. That's why there's so many, like, he makes the games so far apart because he wants time to like try something new with each one, which I think is great.
So assuming that somebody's never played any of the Metal Gear games, and I have, but like, what do you mean by like things that? Can you be more specific? I guess is what I'm getting at.
I can attempt to. One of the things, like with Metal Gear 3, one of the big features was it's a stealth action game, and it was the third in the series, the second on that console generation, and they did a lot of things that were new. I've always been kind of a fan of stealth action games like Splinter Cell and those. One of the things they did was they got rid of the idea of a map, because he said, stealth action games, it used to be like, and Metal Gear invented this, where you walk down a corridor and you've got a little mini map that has like the little cones of vision for the bad guys, so you can see and avoid them. And he said, this one we're cutting that, no map. The almost all of the game takes place outside and not in like buildings and corridors. It's still like it felt a lot more open back in the day. Now it does feel a lot more narrow than it is, but it was kind of a more open game. There's this whole idea of like hunting and gathering, like having to eat to sustain yourself, and which continued on some of the games. Some of the stuff didn't work as well, like the whole camouflage thing, the idea of like swapping out camouflage to make you like you're near red brick, so you want like this camouflage will help you hide a little better. That stuff didn't really go. But there's like, he always does also in the Metal Gear series weird things, like very meta things that you don't think of. Like in Metal Gear Solid 3, there's one of the bosses that you fight is a sniper. He's this old man sniper, and he's kind of hard. You know, you have to be like really stealthy or like think of a fun way to like be really tactical when you kill him. And they program this into the game. He's an old man called The End. If you save the game and then turn your internal clock of your PS2 like 2 weeks, you'll start the game up again, and then you'll find his dead body because he died of old age. Like that's the kind of stuff that you can do in this game that they don't really do. Like things that play outside of like fourth wall breaking, but not in a fun like Deadpool. Look at me, I'm acknowledging the audience, but like in an interesting way.
I think my second game defining one, I only ever played, by the way, Metal Gear 1, and I think I've seen a little Metal Gear 2, and I was just trying to imagine not having that, because I knew that part of their cone of vision was so that you knew when to jump down, like walk up behind a guy and like kill him without him really paying attention. So I can only imagine, I guess, how much more challenging, but I guess to a degree of fun, like you would have to have your observational skills keyed in on like certain characters, so you're not just walking up in front of them, but they're not going to tell you that, because you wouldn't know that in the real world anyway, unless you were looking at them. My second game would be Final Fantasy VII. It was I'd gone from Nintendo to Sega, and then I skipped from Sega to PlayStation. And one of the first games I remember getting was Final Fantasy VII. And I really enjoyed the gameplay, and I enjoyed the storyline. And I know it doesn't have as many characters as Brady had mentioned earlier with Final Fantasy 3 or 6, whichever you choose to call it. But I really enjoyed the fact that like it was the first RPG that I've really got into, because I played things like Sonic and Mario, and those aren't RPGs at all. So coming into like this was pretty cool. I got to name my characters. I named Cloud after myself at the time. I named Barrett after my best friend. I named Tifa after my friend's girlfriend, and then of course I named Eris after my girlfriend at the time. And spoiler, she does get killed in there if you haven't played the game, but at this point I don't care about those spoilers. But I was like, oh man, like she gets stabbed through the back by Sephiroth, and I just remember like, oh shit, I shouldn't tell my girlfriend that her character got stabbed in my game. I think it was actually just foretelling the end of my relationship. But I ended up playing the game a second time with a Game Shark attached, because you could master your materia in one run. But I felt it was important to like beat those games once without any extra help. And I really enjoyed that game, but I was really into like trying to raise chocobos, but I just didn't have the patience to try to get a golden chocobo, and I've still to this day never got one.
My next would be Battlefield 1942, specifically the Desert Combat mod, because that is what kind of started my PC gaming journey. Because I remember after high school, my friends and like we were just 18 and not old enough and too nerdy to start drinking yet. So we went to this LAN center to play video games, and we played like Counter-Strike 1.6, and I think Source was out at that point, but maybe not. I think it was just still 1.6. And one of the things they had was Battlefield 1942 with the Desert Combat mod, which they eventually just ripped off and created Battlefield 2, which is the same game. But I enjoyed it so much when we played, and I was like, I like this so much. I'm just going to get this. I'm just going to go home and get this. So I went home, and like I went to Walmart and bought a copy of Battlefield 1942 for like $20 and installed it and was ready to go. And then like I'd hit like the executable, and it just wouldn't start, and I couldn't figure out. And a quick Google search showed me that my computer wasn't powerful enough to run it. And I was like, oh, that was my first foray into buying a game that like having to have like specific specifications for a computer to play a video game, and that involved me. I was like, well, I got to get a new computer then, and that started me on my path of computer gaming and learning about building computers and maintaining computers. I started watching like tech TV, and my dad had a bunch of old computers around, so I would like take them apart and put them back together again and start them up and install like OSs on them. And I think that's what got me to be as computer literate as I am.
I would have to agree that I really enjoyed Desert Combat. I remember like trying out for a guild in Desert Combat. The guy's like, you have to fly the chopper up as high as you can, flip it over, eject yourself. As it falls, you have to get back in the chopper, upright it before it hits the ground, and take off. And I was actually able to do it. I was like super psyched. But I really enjoyed Desert Combat mod.
Because helicopters were impossible to fly if you didn't have a flight stick. They were just annoying. I mean, I didn't end up playing that much Desert Combat because it took me a while to get a computer that was worthwhile. But eventually I got Battlefield 2, and then I installed Project Reality, which was basically a mod that made Battlefield 2 what it should have been, like a lot more realism and stuff like that. And I actually joined a guild in that and played for quite a while with them.
I've played Desert Combat since then, and I enjoyed 1942, but I haven't quite enjoyed any of the Battlefield games as much as I enjoyed mod.
They've gotten. I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of them. I played 2, I played 3, I played 4, I played them all to death. I've enjoyed them. They have gotten They've tried to chase Call of Duty a little more than I liked. I liked how different it was from Call of Duty and those types of games. The fast-paced, frenetic twitch shooting. I like the more tactical, like giant. I like the games. It's like giant squads of like 64 people on a server all fighting over stuff. I enjoyed that kind of mentality. I'm excited though for Battlefield 1 and what that might bring.
I've heard pretty good stuff about that. I'm looking to possibly try that out. But I picked up Battlefield. 2000, whatever it was, a while ago, and it was like the futuristic one. I was like, this is cool, but like
I missed out on that one. I never got through that one, and it didn't look like it took off that well.
I was talking to our Blazes. I don't remember which one. Tish, Joe's friend. I was asking him what one of his most defining games were, and he also agrees that for him it was WoW because he was living with Joe and his friend Scott at the time, and they got him hooked on the game, and he couldn't put it down, and that's kind of what really got it for him. I think my second game. So when you mentioned Battlefield 1942, like I had some other ones, and now you got me to think about things that I hadn't even thought about. Happen to be Counter-Strike. Like I'm not talking about Counter-Strike Go or CS, 1.6, whatever. It was like the original Counter-Strike, because clearly I'm older than you. I'm going to be 34 in October. For me, playing Counter-Strike was really big on campus when it was 2001, 2002, and I actually ran a guild a guild on campus, a clan, on campus, along with a couple other clans on campus, and we'd always fight each other and whatever, and we became really good friends. But I met a lot of my really good friends that I first made at college through that game, because I was very much a shut-in, and I didn't have any problem with that. Just I would go to class, go eat, go back to my room, play Counter-Strike for hours on end, go to bed, maybe do homework, whatever the case may be. But that was definitely one of the first games where I became socially aware of the fact that other people existed, because I didn't really play many other multiplayer games before that, over the internet.
I was the same way. That was when I had Counter-Strike, and this was like 1.3. I think it was pre-Steam. I know that because when they added Steam and you had to download it, it stopped working for me, and I couldn't play Counter-Strike anymore for years. But I had my own computer in my room, and I had Counter-Strike on it, and I played it a bunch. I was actually more into Day of Defeat. That was my big thing. I was huge into Day of Defeat back in the day when Counter-Strike was still going, and it was like I didn't ever join their server, but I was like big onto this one particular group of people's server. Like I would only ever play on like their server because I like those guys so much. And I even like couple of years ago, back when I was back into Dave Defeat Source, when I got back into that, those guys were still kicking around. So I was playing on their server again, and I was like in talks with maybe like becoming part of their clan, maybe, you know, but I never, like, I think I fell off, or like something came up that I didn't ever play it much. But I was that same kid that was like right at the same time. I was like started to play, like when I wanted to play Battlefield 1942, I was instead playing Dave Defeat.
I know I was talking to Tish. She also said Age of Empires. Dave Defeat, by the way, is a lot like Battlefield 1942, right? It's basically
just Counter-Strike with set in World War II. With, you know, it's the same basic gameplay as Counter-Strike, but with a World War II theme.
So Tish said Age of Empires was a big one. He also enjoyed a lot because they played a lot of high school LAN parties. I never played any of those I played some of like The Sims, which I guess would be the closest I could. Like SimCity, not The Sims, but SimCity. I played a lot of those games, but I never really played Age of Empires, and I haven't yet. But I've played like even Total War. I don't know if you've played any of the Age of Empire games. Is it similar?
No, I never really played any of those.
So I mean, I like Total War, but I wouldn't necessarily put that on one of my game defining ones. But he mentioned Age of Empires was one that really defined it for him because of a lot of high school LAN parties.
Yeah,
I think my last one would have to be Sonic the Hedgehog on Sega Genesis, because it was like I played Mario and I really enjoyed it, but Sonic was like, wow, the graphics are really cool, and I started hanging out with like my cousin would play it with me and my best friend would play it with me. Like they were definitely games that I really got into with other people in the room, and those games Sonic allowed me to play with someone else on the screen. You know, you could take turns on Mario, but somebody could actually control Tails. And then when I got Sonic and Knuckles, you could put that in and even have some more fun with it. So I really enjoyed playing through the Sonic the Hedgehog, the first one. And it's kind of caught my attention every time I see a new Sonic game. I'm like, ooh, but some of it's just the same.
But Sonic's been terrible for the past 15 years, so why even bother? Yeah, mine in a similar vein was it's kind of tied between Halo and Halo 2, because Halo was the first. I got an Xbox and I got Halo, and it was the only game I had for it, and I beat it in like a day, and I absolutely loved it. And then when Halo 2 came out, I got that, and I just went to town on Xbox Live. That was my first I think with a lot of people, that was my first foray into online console gaming, and it was like finally something that was in the closest I'd ever gotten to that experience of Desert Combat or 1942 or any of the online shooters I play on my computer. It's like finally something that is comparable. It's, you know, I'm not original saying that a console shooter will never be as like accurate or crazy, but it was finally an online console shooter that was comparable, that made me not care that I was playing that. And then, you know, that led to me playing, Call of Duty 4 and the Modern Warfare series, and that like led me to go, oh, finally consoles have caught up. That was the game that was like, consoles have finally caught up to computer gaming.
Are you always going to be a shooter? Do you like picking up like shooter games? Are you?
I don't know. I actually really haven't even played I can't even remember the last time I played a shooter. It's been so long.
I'm gonna argue that you probably played Overwatch.
Yeah, I guess Overwatch was the shooter, but I don't even play Overwatch that much. I don't know. I tend to like more military combat stuff and sort of the bright, colorful, fun stuff. I love Overwatch, but I don't play it that often. Yeah, I think I was more into shooters. I used to be more into shooters. Now I'm not into them as much. But yeah, I mean, they can be fun. I like certain like styles of shooters, like the Rising Sun game. I was really into. It's like America versus Japan, and like, you know, like you can play like hardcore mode, like no reticles and stuff like that, and just like really having to aim on iron sights and all that. I like those kinds of games. And I'm a big World War II buff. But yeah, I don't play shooters as much as I used to.
So I guess I'll end the conversation. Well, first I'll talk. So I did get one Cariotti on the show tonight. I asked Michael Cariotti what his favorite games were since we couldn't get hold of Joe. And some of the defining ones that Mikey brought up were Skyrim, WoW, Witcher 3, Smite, Rust. He didn't mention why, but those were kind of his list. But I wanted to leave you with this last question because I know we're running out of time. But like, if shooters aren't quite like your thing, it's not that you're against them or don't like playing them, but like, what would you say is your defining like game type right now? If it's not shooters, is it RPGs? Is it puzzle games? Is it like what is it that kind of has your interest?
I mean, right now it's World of Warcraft, so it's MMORPGs. Like a couple of weeks ago, it was Starbound. It just.
I have no idea what Starbound is.
It's basically it's this like. Do you ever play Terraria? It's Terraria in space.
Oh. Yeah,
my buddies Eric and Kyle and stuff. Like we have a server going. Like so, we have a persistent world we can all play on. But yeah, I don't. It changes so much, and I haven't been playing as many games as I used to.
It's because you're going to that thing they call a gym. That's really cutting into your game time.
No, I mean like the past few months. Like like a couple of weeks ago, I was playing a lot more Heroes of the Storm, but I haven't really played in a while. Like it kind of just comes and goes. I don't know. I just don't play as much as I used to. I don't know. I used to like, especially when I was like doing reviews, I had to play games all the time, and now I don't have to. I can do many other different things. But we got this email from I'm going to say Ganime. I know that's not it. He's told us how to pronounce it, and I've never remembered because I'm that. He sent us a game key, and that's great. He says, also on the subject of defining games, I wholeheartedly with WoW, Warcraft 3 multiplayer to some extent, was a huge defining game for me and helped me with a lot of helped me on being social. Help me on the being social front. The other one would be Soul Reaver 2, and the most of the Legacy of Kain games. The story of that series draws me in hard and opens up the whole games can be smart for me. The Thief series and the Fallout into in that same category, I'd say. Really drawing a blank on the last one, though. I think it might be Battlefield 2142. That was the futuristic Battlefield game you were talking to. So yeah, if you guys have more defining games that you want to tell us about or stories, you can always send us an email to the show at justcoolenough.com and maybe get read out on air. Or you can always say them in our live chat channel at justcoolenough.com/live, where somebody right now just said Duke Nukem, maybe, being the first grown-up game I played, Duke Nukem 3D to be precise. Yeah, I remember playing Duke Nukem 3D and loving it. Also, Doom 2, like, that was a big influence on me as a kid because it was a game that my dad had at his work. So when it was Bring Your Kid to Work Day, I would just sit at one of his many computers and play Doom 2.
I remember playing, I think it was Doom, but like I had mentioned a couple weeks ago, where it was Hook 1. It had to be a PlayStation. Was it Doom? I don't remember. I think it was Doom. Hooking my PlayStation up to my friend's PlayStation and having to have two TVs, two PlayStations in order to play two players. And they had that.
I don't know if it was on the PlayStation. I know it was definitely on the 64, but it could have been also on the PlayStation.
One of the Dooms. I know that I had to link my computer or my PlayStation to his and play with two televisions and two consoles. It was very bizarre to play two-player, but also kind of cool. But I think it was the only one that ever used the wire that I ever remember seeing. We had to link them together.
Yeah, it's crazy like that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. I think it's time we stop talking about all this video game shit and start plugging each other. My plug for this week, I guess I'll just plug it again. You can check me out tonight on the Saving Throw Twitch channel at twitch.tv/savingthrowshow, or you can watch the archive of the episode I'm on tonight or any of the other ones I've been on, which is as many of them, at Saving Throw Show on YouTube or savingthrowshow.com.
I'm gonna plug ourselves That's what I'm going to plug this week because I know with Joe coming back, hopefully next week, he would love to be able to read some kind of review on iTunes. We got our last one last month on the 16th. And if you could rate us 5 stars or whatever and head over to iTunes and just leave us a rating, it would be super helpful. I was actually talking to someone this week about the fact that I've been doing a podcast for 7 weeks because they didn't know I did a podcast. I've known them for a while. I mentioned that we got on the New and Noteworthy right when we started, like way back in the day. And I thought that was super cool. So I would like to get some recognition. I'd like to be able to read out some stuff on the air. Also, I'm sure Joe would want to say, if you go ahead and plug anything on Facebook, we didn't check this week because we don't care as much as Joe does. But if you go on Facebook and look for Just Cool Enough and you repost or whatever, anything that we talk about or post on there, you will be entered in to win a game key for some random game that we've been given because we've been given a lot of game keys by a lot of users. And we appreciate it. And finally, I'll just plug our email. If you have nothing else, you don't want to take the time to find us on Facebook or whatever, but you have a few seconds to drop to send us an email, you can email us at theshow@justcoolenough.com. That is theshow@justcoolenough.com. And we would be glad to read your email out on the air, assuming that it doesn't, Yeah, sure. We'll just pretty much read just about anything.
Not entirely sure. True. I'm very
just about.
Okay, just about. Yeah, just pretty much. Anything. Just about. Some stuff, maybe not, but just about anything. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching all this garbage of 2 perfectly grown men talking about video games for way too long. And you can always check out the website, justcoolenough.com. Check us out on iTunes and the web and all that shit. You can always follow me on Twitter. I'm at Duncor, Duncor, or mostly shit on Instagram.
And you can follow me on let's go with Twitter at Railvis. That's RAILVAS. Or you can find me by Railvis, #Railvis 1410 on any Blizzard account stuff.
Yeah, and you can always I would plug Joe, but Joe is not here. And so if we're being honest, he said he was not here because of work. He's not. He's sitting here right now watching the show and like critiquing us and like, oh, those guys better do all this stuff. So I just want to say, if you are listening, Joe, fuck off. And to the rest of you listeners, bye.
Bye.
All right, and that's how we end the show every week. Yeah. That's how we do it.
That's how we do it.
And then I click this little button that stops the broadcast, and the broadcast just stops. It's amazing. It's like magic.